I'm sitting here debating my problem with myself. I'm divorced due to a cheating wife. I have been divorced going on a year. I have no kids and no immediate family in the area. I'm telling you this because I want another man's wife. I don't know if it's love, need, infatuation, or just plain want of her. I do know that revenge is part of it. You see, I don't know her that well. I have been seeing her often when I go to lunch. She works in the same building as I do. I have been trying to find out as much information on her as possible. I am going to have her, but my problem is, then what? It's a horrible feeling in a sense. To want someone so bad that I would be willing to take her by force if necessary. So far I found out she is around 30 years old. A nice petite build. She wears mini skirts or tight pants. She's married to a loser as far as I can tell. She has no children and is somewhat of a flirt. Her husband's a loser because he doesn't know what he has and is willing to take a chance on losing her. The worst thing about him is he broke up my marriage. He did that with my wife and now I will make him pay. I figure if I take her I will be doing her a favor. In case you haven't figured it out, I'm a nutcase. A bona fide son of a b. I've been this way ever since I caught my wife cheating on me. I came home from work early one day and just walked into my house. I really wasn't paying much attention to anything and just walked into my bedroom to change my clothes. There in the middle of the bed lay my wife with another man. She saw me and screamed, and the sorry bee thought he was doing a good job on her. I grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled him off my cheating wife. As I threw him to the floor and started beating him, he was finishing. My crazy wife just kept screaming. As he was starting to get up, I dragged him to the door and threw him naked right out into the street. I threw his wallet and car keys onto the grass but not his clothes. He got up, staggered to his car and drove away. I never saw or heard from him again until one day fate just intervened. I then walked back into the bedroom where my sorry excuse for a wife was getting dressed quickly. She was crying, "Kevin, it's not what it looked like. Please let's talk about it. We can work this out." "Not what it looked like," I said. "It looked like you were having fun with that in our bed." "Were you having fun with him or not?" "Please, Kevin, let me explain." I interrupted her. "Either you were doing this or you weren't. Which is it? It isn't that hard of a question. Just answer it." I waited a few seconds and said, "Since you're having such a hard time with that one question, our talk is over. I'm going out to have dinner. You have 1 hour to get whatever you want and get out of my life. If you're still here when I get back, I'm going to throw your sorry out. That's it, you have 1 hour. That's the end of this conversation." Then I walked out the door. I waited 2 hours before going back. I was hoping she would be gone. You see, I'm a man of my word and I would have do it even though she's a woman and my wife. When I got back home, she was gone and most of her personal stuff was gone also. She left me a note. I wasn't even going to read it but then thought maybe I should. Note from Rachel. "Dearest Kevin, I made a mistake, a really big mistake. Jim doesn't mean anything to me. He was an old school friend that I ran into. We were lovers back in school. You knew I wasn't when we got married. It was Jim who was my first love. Things just happened and old memories never die. I ran into Jim at the mall. It was so good to see him again. Just as an old friend. Well, he started flirting with me and I started remembering old times. He asked me where I lived and we came to the house. I should have known better but I made a mistake. When we got into the house I showed him around. When we got to the bedroom he took me into his arms and kissed me. It just seemed like old times. Then it happened. We started doing it like we used to and then he took me. God, I wish it never happened but it did. I'm so sorry for hurting you. Please reconsider taking me back. I promise to be a good wife and never to cheat again. I really do love you, Kevin. Love always." Rachel. The note just hurt me worse. Now the guy had a name. I loved my wife but I'm one of the nutcases out there that believes love can be lost. In my case it was totally gone. It was replaced with revenge. Revenge isn't necessarily something you want. It's something you just have to do. I would get mine. I called off work the next day seeing I had to change our checking and savings accounts. I called most of the credit card companies and canceled them. I kept 2 that were in my name only for any expenses I might incur. I'm a hard-nosed and not afraid to admit it. That's just the way it is. Rachel's dad called and asked what the problem was between me and Rachel. I got pissed and said, "What the F is the matter with you? Don't tell me you didn't have the B to ask your own daughter." "Well, George, I caught your precious daughter doing this with one of her friends in our bed. I'm not the forgiving kind and threw her out. She had a chance to take whatever she wanted and I'm not giving her another damn dime. If she wants to go to court and bring out the dirty laundry, that's fine with me. Otherwise, leave me alone. Then I just hung up the phone. 2 days later, Karen, who is Rachel's younger sister, called me and asked if I would talk to her for a few minutes. I told her go ahead and talk, that I was listening. She started out saying how Rachel was so sorry until I cut her off. I don't care how sorry Rachel is. Do you have anything else to say? If you say the name Rachel again, I'll hang up. Your sister doesn't exist in my life anymore. Karen asked if there were any more personal items that belonged to her sister left at the house. I just told her that her sister had an hour to take all she wanted with her. If she forgot something, then that was too damn bad. Karen mentioned a few items. I was starting to get pissed again. So I responded in the only way I knew. Karen, I'll tell you what. You come over here and do this with me on my bed and I'll let you take whatever else you want for your precious sister. She screamed back, you sorry son of a, how dare you to talk to me like that? Wait until I tell my husband and you can deal with him. Does that mean I'm not going to get a chance to have it with you? I always thought you'd be a pretty good. Well then send that sorry excuse for a husband over here. I wasn't afraid of. He was just a yes person to his wife. I had no doubts I'd ever see him at my door. I could hear someone in the background on the phone. I knew it was Rachel. Karen must have handed her the phone. All I heard was, Kevin, you son of a, then I just hung up the phone. I contacted my lawyer and had him fill out the necessary papers, giving Rachel nothing. We were renting the house, we each had our own car. Other than that, I just kept the savings accounts. Rachel never fought the divorce. I let it be known that I would talk to no one in the family except Karen, and that was only if she met my demands. Damn, I was a hard. Karen was a looker. She was a little better looking than her sister Rachel. Both were good-looking women, but Karen was a few years younger. I was getting ready to move out of the house and the divorce was already final. I called Karen on the phone and asked if she wanted to get a few personal items of her sister's. That I was moving to an apartment and didn't want to haul her stuff around. If she didn't come and get it, I would just throw it all out. She quickly said yes, she would come and get the items that evening. I told her to either come alone or bring that sorry excuse for a husband with her. Under no circumstances was Rachel to be at my door. When Karen arrived at my door that evening, she was alone. I asked about her husband, but she said he was busy. I knew the truth was that he was afraid and she knew I was going to do it. When she came into the house, we walked into the bedroom where I had her sister's stuff packed. She reached down for one of the boxes when I said, "Hold it. You haven't paid for it yet." She looked at me and said, "You can't be serious? I'm not going to do it." I laughed. "You've been thinking about this for a long time." Then I grabbed her. I said, "Give it up, Karen, you're not fooling anyone. There's only you and me here." She took her hands off from around my neck and I pushed her on the bed. "Tell me what you want, Karen. Tell me you want me to do it. Come on, Karen, say it," as I began by. Damn, she was hot. She was really hot. "Please, let's do this, Kevin, I want this. Even if I'm married, do it. Heck you. You're just like your sister." "Then I'll do it." "Well, Karen, what will it be?" By this time she was hot. "Anyway at all, Kevin, just do it. God, I want it." I said, "Talk to me, Karen. I love dirty talk. Is it good? Do you want more? Come on, talk to me." I took some of my revenge out on her, but damn, it felt good. I then zipped up my pants. I looked at her. I walked over and picked up a couple of her sister's boxes of stuff and headed out to her car. When I came back in, she started yelling at me. "You son of a, you just used me. How can you be so cold? What has happened to you? Where is the fun-loving Kevin that was once here? He died. Your sister killed him. You got what you wanted just like your sister. Now take her stuff and get out of my house. By the way, I don't want any more of you. I can't stand a cheating wife. You have all your sister's stuff, so there should be no reason for you to come back." She called me a B, grabbed the last box of stuff and left my house. She was a damn good, but I knew that I just wanted her for revenge on her sister. It can never take the place of love. It just can't. I'm saying it can't be put at the same category as love. It seems to build up in you. It's all you think about. Revenge. Make them pay for their act. That was my goal. I knew it wouldn't solve my problems. I knew it, but it was just something I had to do. Right or wrong, I was going to extract my revenge. Her name was Carly, the good-looking petite girl I saw every day. Sometimes you get an urge, a feeling you can't get rid of. That's what I felt when I saw her almost every day. She would come into the restaurant with her girlfriends. They would all laugh and seem to enjoy their lives. One of the girls she ate lunch with was Marcia. I'd known her for years. We were friends but not real close. Kind of, "Hi, Marcia, how are you today?" type friends. Marcia knew about my divorce. In a small community, almost everyone you know has heard the rumors. One day when Marcia came in the restaurant alone at lunchtime, I asked her to join me for lunch. I wanted to talk to her. She sat down a little suspicious. I told her it was just for lunch, that I got tired of always eating alone. We talked about her family and how the kids were. She told me about her husband's promotion and about things in general. She asked me about my life and how things were since the divorce. Everyone knew Rachel cheated on me, but no one knew with whom. If anyone ever was brave to ask, I simply told them I didn't know who it was and it really didn't make any difference. I asked Marcia about the new girl in their office. She told me her name was Carly. She and her husband Jim had moved here about a year ago. When she said the name Jim, it just didn't sit right. Marcia looked at me and said, "Kevin, Carly is a happily married woman. You're not going to make a play on her, are you?" Everyone knew about my bad personality since the divorce. I told Marcia that I thought Carly was a fine-looking woman and just wondered who she was. She gave me more information on Jim, and then I had to find out if he was who I thought he was. If he was, there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to do this. I hated being like this, but I couldn't help it. One day at lunchtime, I was in a corner booth with a friend of mine having lunch. He had never asked me much about my personal life. He knew better, so we got along just fine. As we were eating, in came Carly and her husband. It was the son of AB that I caught with my wife. Damn. I wanted to go back over and punch him again, but I kept my cool. He never recognized me, seeing he only saw me for a few seconds while I beat him. But unfortunately, I recognized him. One day when Carly was alone at the restaurant, I started talking to her. I introduced myself and mentioned that I was friends with Marcia. I wanted to put Carly at ease. She smiled and introduced herself. I asked her if she wanted to share a table. She looked a little nervous until I told her she would have to pay for her own lunch. That made her laugh as we sat down. She just talked up a storm, telling me about herself, and indicated that her husband Jim had transferred here a little over a year ago. She stated that they had kind of a rocky start here, that her husband was jumped by two men and they had stolen everything he owned. He had to drive to the emergency room and had stitches above his left eye. She said he was a mess when he got home. She mentioned he filed a police report but didn't have a good enough description, and the police never caught the culprits. That explained why he never turned me in. After lunch, I told her it was so nice to meet her and that anytime she wanted to share a table, it was fine with me. Now I had a real problem. I liked Carly. I really liked her. I needed my revenge and at the same time did not want to hurt Carly. What to do? I would have to think on this. I saw her almost every day, most of the time with the other girls from her office. She always looked over at me and smiled. One day in passing, I told her I was going to start lunch an hour later, so I probably wouldn't have a chance to eat lunch with her again, but lo and behold, the next day she took her lunch an hour later and was alone. She came to my table and asked to join me. Of course I said yes, and we started having lunch almost every day together. We started to become good friends and I was starting to have strong feelings for her. One day I got up and said to her that I thought she was one of the most beautiful, nicest women I'd ever met. If she wasn't married, I would ask her out. She acted nervous and said, "But I am married, Kevin. I might not have the best marriage, but I won't ever cheat on my husband." I couldn't. It's just not right. I had to ask her about that last statement. What is wrong with your marriage? She had tears in her eyes and said she thought her husband had been cheating on her, but she wasn't sure. I took her hand and just held it for a minute. She was shaking as I did my best to calm her down. I was wondering what kind of an would give up a wonderful woman like this to just go around. What an idiot. Then I began to wonder if he was back with Rachel again. I looked at Carly and told her I had something very important to talk to her about, but I couldn't do it there, and asked if she would meet me after work. I needed her to trust me enough to go to my apartment where we could talk very privately. "Kevin, I can't go to your apartment. What would that look like? What would people think?" I just thought about Rachel for a second. Why couldn't she have been like this? "Carly, it is extremely important that I talk to you. I care for you too much not to tell you what I know. Please meet with me. I think I trust you, Kevin. I do like you but don't know you well enough to be alone in an apartment with you." Can we meet here and either talk in the car or in a restaurant? Okay, Carly, let's meet here after work. I'll even buy your dinner. She smiled at me and said, boy, it must be important if you're willing to buy dinner, as she laughed. I had to get my thoughts in order. What would I say? How would I say it? I didn't want to take the chance of alienating Carly. I wanted her for my revenge, but now I also wanted her for me. Yes, old hard-nosed son of a Kevin was falling for another man's wife. Damn it, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. I was just supposed to take her in front of her husband and then laugh at him. Why did it have to be her? Damn it, we met for dinner. She told me she had talked to Marge and was told about my divorce and how my wife was found by me having with another man. She said that it must have been awful seeing this in my own home. She stated how sorry she felt for me. She was so afraid of finding out the same kind of information on her husband she didn't know how she would handle it if it happened to her. Carly, there is a few things I must tell you about me. I know you're married, but I'm falling in love with you. Please, Kevin, don't say any more. I'm a married woman. Carly, it is imperative I tell you these things. I must tell you and you have to listen, please. As I said, I'm falling in love with you. My problem is I'm a hard-nosed bee. Finding my wife and her lover together made me that way. I know you've heard people talk and say what a mean bee I've become. I can't help it. I wish I could. I'm always walking around with a chip on my shoulder. My wife put that chip there along with her lover. My plan was revenge. I was going to find her lover's wife and do it with her in front of her husband. Yes, the son of AB was married also. Carly interrupted me. Please, Kevin, you don't need to tell me this. It's so personal and I know it hurts for you to talk about it. I hear it in your voice. Let me continue, please, Carly. As I said, I was going to get revenge on my wife's lover. Now I have a big problem. The woman whom I was going to take is a woman I've fallen in love with. Carly put her hands over her face in shock. She knew the man was her husband and the woman I fell in love with was her. Carly had tears rolling down her face. My God, it's so hard to believe. How do you know? How can you be so sure? You were going to do it for revenge against my husband? She was crying harder. I went to put my arms around her to comfort her, but she stopped me. Please don't touch me right now, she said. I need a moment to think. Carly, a year ago I found the man in my bedroom. I beat the S out of him and threw him out of my house without any clothes. All I knew was that his name was Jim. I then pulled out the note from my pocket that Rachel had left me. For some strange reason I had kept it. I handed it to Carly to read. She cried as she read it. I watched you for the last 6 months coming down to the restaurant to eat lunch. Day by day I waited to see you. You were the only bright spot in my life and I didn't even know you. But I was slowly falling for you. I didn't know at the time you were married. I never approached you because I had temper problems and was still planning my revenge. Then one day I asked Marge about you. She told me you were married and I felt bad. I really wanted to get to know you better, but I didn't want to ruin your marriage. Then another day your husband met you for lunch. That was when I knew who he was. I did everything in my power not to do it with him again. If you had been any other woman I would have taken you in front of him by now. Just for the revenge. Carly was crying with her hands folded in front of her. I continued, I was falling in love with you and couldn't do it to the woman I love. Now I'm in deep turmoil. I want to hurt your husband and not hurt you. The last year has all been about revenge. I believe that your husband is back with Rachel since they were childhood sweethearts and she is now divorced. How do you feel about me, Carly? I need to know so I know what to do. I promise regardless of your feelings for me I will not hurt you. I just couldn't do it now. Make sure to like this video if you want the next part of the story.